Hello, friends. I was influenced and I got the big fancy podcast mic. I'll link it down below if anybody wants to give it a whirl. I really like it so far. I think it was worth the money. Just saying. Anyway, I got a really great text message from a client yesterday who is one of my guinea pigs. I usually run all of my new manifestation methods through her. And she was asking me a question about ADHD and manifesting. And I was like, oh, do we not know that ADHDers manifest differently? So I thought we could talk about it. So here's the thing. If you have ADHD and you struggle with manifesting, you were never bad at manifesting. Your brain just doesn't like the boring ass rituals. So, one of the biggest lies floating around the manifestation world is that you need to be calm, consistent, perfectly focused, spiritually disciplined, and able to visualize a white marble mansion for 47 uninterrupted minutes while drinking moon water out of a glass that is shaped like a hexagon. Okay. Meanwhile, the ADHD girlies are over here trying to manifest while opening 19 tabs, forgetting why we walked into the kitchen, hyperfixating on a business idea at 2:11 a.m., and accidentally daydreaming an entirely different life during a work meeting, starting a vision board, and somehow ending up researching medieval shipwrecks. And honestly, that may be actually part of our superpower, okay? Because manifestation is not about becoming a robot. It's about becoming energetically available for a reality that your nervous system can finally perceive. ADHD brains are not lacking imagination, they're overflowing with it. So the issue is not seeing the vision. The issue is stabilizing belief long enough for the body to stop treating the dream like fiction. That's the real work. So, ADHD manifestation is different because your brain runs on interest, emotion, and stimulation. Most manifestation advice is built for neurotypical consistency, repeating the same affirmation daily, meditating in silence, following routines, slowly building momentum, while an ADHD nervous system often responds to novelty, urgency, emotional intensity, visual stimulation, the dopamine, the immersion, the identity shifts, the storytelling, the movement, the obsession, the hyperfixations, right? That's how we do it. Meaning our manifestations tend to activate when something becomes emotionally real enough to grip your imagination. That's when it happens. Not just intellectually possible, okay? This is why a lot of people with ADHD accidentally manifest things during hyperfixations, during heartbreak, rage, reinvention. Sorry, I had to start a new video. Reinvention eras, random midnight identity crises, and I can't live like this anymore moments, okay? Because suddenly the ADHD brain locks in, the signal strengthens, the internal movie, okay, becomes vivid, and manifestation responds heavily to internal imagery. So, my fellow ADHDers, we have to see it first. Not perfectly, not constantly, but viscerally. This is why I'm always talking about if you have ADHD and you want to manifest, watch movies about people that have the life that you want, right? Most people think that manifestation begins with belief, but it often begins with mental visibility. Your brain has to start recognizing the possibility of the thing before your nervous system stops filtering it out. This is why ADHD minds can actually be extraordinary manifestors, okay? Master manifestors. You already think in scenes, fragments, emotional snapshots, future simulations, rapid associations, and symbolic imagery. So your brain is basically running unauthorized movie trailers all day long. Okay. The problem is that many ADHD people only use this power accidentally. Imagining worst case scenarios. I see you. Okay. Replaying rejection, fantasizing about failure, catastrophizing, and doom spiraling, which means the imagination becomes a haunted house instead of a portal. So the goal is not positive thinking. The goal is directed imagination. And there's a difference. You don't need to force yourself to believe I am a billionaire and everything is perfect. Okay. your nervous system will throw that affirmation into the ocean, straight up. Okay. Instead, ADHD manifestation works best through a few things like specificity, sensory detail, emotional realism, micro scenes, all right, instead of like 10-minute ones, and identity rehearsal. So, for example, instead of, I'm trying to think of something, instead of I am successful, okay, your brain responds more strongly to something like I'm sitting in my kitchen answering too many client emails because my launch unexpectedly blew up. That your nervous system can grab onto. That makes sense because it feels textured, it feels concrete, it feels cinematic, right? ADHD brains often manifest faster when the vision feels like a scene from a memory instead of a motivational quote. Now, we also have to talk about the ADHD manifestation trap. Yes, there's a trap. The dopamine fantasy versus like the embodied vision. And this part really matters because sometimes ADHD manifestation becomes endless planning, spiritual Pinterest boards, overconsumption, fantasy loops, researching success instead of inhabiting it. Totally guilty of that. So your brain gets dopamine from imagining the future without physically moving toward it. That's the problem. That creates energetic traffic jams. It's the same reason why ADHD people love to make lists, because we get the same amount of dopamine from making the list as we would from actually getting the thing done. It's a trap. It's a trap, my loves. It's a trap. Okay. So it creates energetic traffic jams. You become spiritually blueballed by your own potential. So the key becomes tiny physical anchoring, not giant action, because that it feels overwhelming for us unless we're in the midst of hyperfixation. But not giant action, tiny proof, right? So some examples would be like buying the domain name, cleaning your workspace, just posting the first video, opening the savings account, making the Canva draft, writing the bio before you feel ready, dressing like the version of you who already belongs there. Manifestation loves embodiment, even microscopic embodiment, right? Now, the other thing, ADHD people need environmental manifestation, not just mental, okay? Your environment matters more than you think because ADHD brains are cue driven, okay? Meaning your surroundings constantly reinforce identity. So if your room looks like burnout, chaos, depression, and unfinished grief, your nervous system keeps receiving the message, we are stuck. We're stuck. But tiny environmental shifts can create shocking energetic movement. So if that resonates, if that feels right, try some lighting changes, try some playlists, some sort of scent association, mood boards, designated future self spaces. If you're witchy, set up an altar or two. This can also be something as simple as like changing your phone wallpaper, deleting your energy draining apps, creating beauty before productivity. And it's because your brain is highly responsive to atmosphere. Okay. So build an environment that hypnotizes you toward your future instead of your paralysis. Okay. Now let's talk about hyperfixation because it's a portal. Use it carefully. Okay. This is why we're master manifestors. One of the most underrated ADHD manifestation abilities is temporary obsession, right? It's when our brain locks into something emotionally significant, our energy becomes concentrated instead of scattered. So suddenly we're going to start noticing opportunities. We're going to be creating relentlessly. We become magnetic. Your intuition is sharp. Your output increases dramatically. And this is why some ADHD people accidentally change their entire lives in 3 months after years of stagnation. This was me when I started my tarot TikTok, right? Absolutely obsessed, and it paid off. The hyperfixation becomes a rocket engine, but the danger here, of course, is burnout. So instead of trying to sustain obsession forever, we need to learn to surf the waves, all right? Use the momentum while it's there. Build systems during the fire. Automate what you can. Capture ideas immediately. Create before perfection enters the room with a clipboard and a pew pew. Okay. So, manifestation with ADHD is also nervous system work. A lot of ADHD people have spent years hearing, you're inconsistent, you never finish things, you're lazy. My favorite, you have so much potential. Why can't you just focus? Well, that creates shame, right? And shame is incredibly anti receptive. You cannot sustainably manifest from a nervous system that believes I ruin everything eventually. A lot of us have that thought running in the background. So, part of manifestation becomes grieving. Sorry, my alarm went off. Grieving the identity that we were handed. No fixing yourself, not becoming neurotypical, not forcing yourself into routines that feel like psychological drywall, right? But instead, learning how your energy naturally moves. Work with it instead of against it. What environments are helping you to thrive? How to work with your brain instead of against it. I said it twice just to make sure you catch it. How to trust bursts of momentum without fearing collapse. That's a big one. That's a very big one. Okay. I'll even say it again for y'all. To trust bursts of momentum without fearing collapse. So, to recap, maybe your manifestation style was never supposed to look soft, serene, or linear. Okay. Maybe it was supposed to look like sudden insight, creative chaos, deep vision, non-linear expansion, emotional intensity, strange timing, intuitive leaps, accidental breakthroughs, becoming obsessed with your future until the present finally rearranges itself around it. So, ADHD manifestation is like building a brick wall. It's more like less like building a brick wall, and it's more like catching lightning in a mason jar and teaching it your name. By the way, have you guys have worded your names for money, right? Just checking.